Let me also look at the issue of small businesses and hiring and taxes. I want you to listen to what Vice President Joe Biden said to a gentleman who asked him about, or actually begged for, lower my taxes. Listen to this.
Hey, where are you? Don't worry, turn around. Lower our taxes and call it you guys. If you say something nice instead of being smart all the time. Thank you.
I don't know whether you could see that or not. We bleeped out what the Vice President says, smart, that kind of thing. We bleeped that one out, but you get the point. You can have some hay with this one, make some hay with this one, can't you?
Well, I think Vice President Biden has a way with words sometimes that perhaps he even regrets. But the bigger problem is the tax policies that are discouraging job creation in our country. You know, last month there was virtually no private sector jobs created in America, and that's because of all the uncertainty that this administration is injecting into the economy. Talk of card check, cap and trade, Obamacare, VAT, value-added taxes, on top of that a growing debt. All these things create a level of uncertainty that's discouraging capital from being invested in creating jobs and opportunity in America. We have to reverse course.
Is that
that's
your
why
focus?
I'm running for U.S. Senate.
Is that your focus?
It is.
Small business and job creation, small business.
Absolutely.
Regulation, get it away.
My focus is twofold. Yeah, my focus is pretty straightforward. I want to shrink the debt and grow the economy and try to do both simultaneously. And I think the way you do that is by re-embracing the free enterprise principles that have made us the freest, most prosperous people in all of human history.
Now, the taxes on the so-called rich, the top 1.5% of income earners, supposed to go up on January the 1st. If elected, would you argue against that tax hike?
Yes, I would. In fact, I would argue in favor of making permanent the 2001 and 2003 tax cuts. And I would argue doing it now before they recess so that people have some level of certainty. I think going forward we need to simplify our tax code, and we can get to that next. But I think the most important thing now is to provide certainty, particularly to job creators. And that's what you're describing when you talk about that upper 1%, is job creators. It's important to provide them with certainty in our marketplace by making permanent these tax cuts and not allowing the tax code to become something that's played for at the whim of the administration and congressional leaders that just want more revenue.
You're arguing economics. I put it to you that if you suggested that we not increase taxes on the rich on January the 1st, you'd be demagogued to death. You'd be accused of giving money to the rich at a time of a nasty recession.
Well, the bottom line is that we need folks to create jobs in America. And jobs in America are created by people that have money or access to money, and they use that money to start a business or expand an existing one. That's how economics works. I mean, if we've reached a point in American history where you can't be honest with people about that and talk to them about the reality of what makes our economy grow, then we're in bigger trouble than I thought we were in. I don't think we've reached that point. I think people want to hear frank and genuine discussions about what it will take to get this economy growing again, not this anemic growth that we see right now. And I hope my candidacy, among many others across the country, will be a vehicle through which to do that, a catalyst, so to speak.
Eleanor Kagan, possibly going on to the Supreme Court, looks likely, in fact. I know that you want to repeal the health care reform bill, get rid of it, repeal it. Where do you think she would stand on health care reform if those questions, constitutional, legal questions, came before the Supreme Court and she was on it?
Well, it's tough to tell. I do think that what her writing suggests from her time in the White House is that she has a political ear, and that oftentimes much of the advice she gave on legal issues were directed by political considerations, and we certainly don't need that on the Supreme Court. So I hope that the senators, through their consent advice role that the Senate plays, will ask the difficult questions of Ms. Kagan as far as to where she stands on these issues, and more importantly, what she sees the role of the judiciary, which is the most important thing I want to know about a Supreme Court nominee. I certainly don't think the role of a Supreme Court justice is to be a political operative, and as far as what I've read from the history that she had while working at the White House, she certainly allowed politics to play a role in her opinion on legal issues.
Do you think that the Democrats have declared war on the Roberts Court because it is, some say, the standard bearer for corporate America?
Well, I certainly think they want to change the ideological direction of the court. We saw a ruling today on gun rights that said that the Second Amendment applies to city and local governments. Yeah. I doubt that's the kind of court they want, and I think they'd like to get on the 5 side of that majority on their views, their ideological direction, and I think this is part of that process.
It probably wouldn't make much difference to the balance of the court, though, because she would be replacing someone who is considered liberal, Justice Stevens. So
it wouldn't change the makeup of this court.
Yeah,
it wouldn't change the makeup of this court, but what I'm saying is they'd like to get to the 5 side of it, and I think if their next probably nomination is the one they're looking at, but it's important to keep this one as solidly on the foreside right now as what they have.
But no tax hikes for the rich on January the 1st and roll back healthcare reform. That's where Marco Rubio stands, amongst other issues, right?
That's right. Yes.
Marco Rubio, it's a pleasure. Nice to see you, sir. Thanks very much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And just remember, the rich, it's not how I call them job creators, because that's what many of these people do. And if we tax them, they won't have the money available to invest in creating new jobs in America. So thanks for having me.
You're speaking to someone who grew up in Western Europe. I know whereof you speak. Thanks for joining us, sir. A pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
A group